But we get inside these draft here. I'm expecting a Richter band to come out straight here. I feel like he just provides a lot towards a newer friendly comp, and it's a little bit easier to get out. But we actually do see the Decker.
Yeah, we see the Decker, one of those support picks that we just see every tournament, doesn't matter what meta. Decker just provides so much lockdown, so much utility, so much hard CC that you do not really want to play without her. So might as well, if you can pick her, make sure the enemy also can't. It's going to be the Decker banned away from Wompcats. I think it's a pretty smart choice as well. Just making sure that you get rid of those sort of easy to play heroes that have like easy setup and just provide like an easy angle to play those team fights.
Provides so much utility, and so does Bellic as we see that band come out as well. Very familiar with these two, just kind of getting out of the picture. And with these two great heroes out, we know Decker is more prized towards that support role, so kind of just making the support role a little bit smaller for the Wompcats. But Bellic just being able to go through the mid and support role kind of just shortens that pool and just a little bit more on confirmed crisis. As we do see the Rampage being picked here. And throughout all today, Rampage has just been a nuisance towards the enemy team.
Yeah, Rampage just has so much of everything. I think that's like the base problem with Rampage right now in the meta is that he's so tanky. He has decent amount of damage. He has a lot of lockdown with his rock, and he has decent amount of wave clears with a movement ability as well. So might as well pick it up if it's not banned. And Confirmed Crisis is doing exactly that. Wompcats, though, is getting the Richter in return. That can be a triple flex, but is usually played in the support role, but we are not quite sure yet. And it's also like one of those good pickups because playing into a Rampage and Richter is usually a bad sign. One rock together with the hook, so might as well deny it and get the Gideon for themselves as well.
Gideon providing that overall AoE damage, a lot of burst coming from him, especially if he's able to hit his combo off. And that black hole is going to be huge if landed on a good target. But we do see that Murdoch being picked up, and that is going to be spicy, as we did see in previous tournaments, Murdoch just being able just to be dominant inside that ADC role.
We've seen a few bans from Murdoch as well in this tournament. I think this is the first one it actually comes out, at least the first one it comes to mind. They get the Saras as well, so they have decent amount of damage. They have decent amount of pressure in the offlane. Saras probably gonna go there. Rampage in the jungle. It's pretty clear where those heroes are gonna go. I'm really liking this. It's one of those comps that provide a lot of pressure from the side lanes. We're gonna have to wait and see though what they pick in support. But it's the Chimera being picked up by Wompcats. Used to be one of those answers to the Rampage in jungle, but with the recent nerfs to Chimera and also the buffs to Rampage, I'm not sure if that still holds true.
Maybe not. We are definitely going to find out in this next matchup. But with Chimera, though, he does provide a lot of dive potential, able to kind of stick to anybody that he wants to. And once he's on top of you, it's kind of hard to get away. But as we hit the secondary ban stage here, we see the Narbash getting just banned out from Wompcats. Does not want Confirmed Crisis to have that. I think that's good, especially with the healing. You don't want to add that onto the Rampage.
Yeah, you definitely do not want to, and that also pinches the support pool quite a bit because Bellica can be support, Decker also it should be support, and that one is also banned. So realistically, 3 support bans for the side of both of them in total, but Wompcats probably already has the support in Richter, so might as well just pinch it a bit more. We can see them having one more pick, then we go over to Confirmed Crisis. I'm actually thinking right now, like they pick up the TB. I thought maybe they can even go for something like the Muriel in order to facilitate the dive. Then also Richter into Saras isn't even the worst offlane matchup. So I was thinking maybe they can do something like that. They still have the chance to, but now it's Confirmed Crisis. Time to pick, and maybe they will go for the Muriel. No, they go for the Steel instead.
Man, that provides a lot of just straightforward CC. Just doesn't need to do anything just to capitalize on that. But with the Howitzer pickup, a little bit spicy, as we do know Howitzer does a lot of single target damage, but it gets a little bit different when you're trying to get into those team fights on if you're able to do a lot of that AoE damage. Meanwhile, the Gideon provides that, and do see that Greystone being picked up last. And we've been seeing Greystone a lot today.
We've seen Greystone a lot, but I'm not sure if we've seen the best. Him being utilized the best so far. I think he has lost most of his games, if not all, but that can definitely change in this game. Generally speaking, I'm not the biggest fan of the Greystone into the Saras. Yes, after level 6, like you can deny those Colosseum stacks if you just ultimate inside of his ultimate, but usually the Saras knows that, so he's not gonna invest his ultimate unless he really wants to force it out. But all in all, a very interesting comp. Wompcats plays a lot for dive. They do have some avenues to pick as well, but I'm not the biggest fan of playing the Richter with no long range hard CC. Usually want to set him up. That is not possible in this draft. Meanwhile, Confirmed Crisis just have one button on their keyboard, and that is the W key, and they are probably gonna make great use of that. The Rampage just wants to go in, so does the Saras, the Steel, just can do everything, honestly, but diving is one of them as well, and then the Howitzer that has a decent amount of self-peel, so does Murdoch. So I'm definitely thinking I'm giving Confirmed Crisis a bit of the draft gap, but certainly everything is possible.
Everything is possible indeed. Even with the steal, he can dive, but even if you have the Rampage and Zars already diving, you don't necessarily need him. He can stay there for peel. But with the Wompcats, you might not have the setup for the Richter hook, but if you're having that type of game, it just might very well go in your favor, and you're just hitting hooks left and right, and then you don't even need a setup. And with the Chimera just being able to dive in the back line and that TB, just doing that all-around sustain, just continues to just kind of double shot the entire way through. And if the Greystone is able to kind of dive into that backline, it's going to be an absolute menace. But as we get into the game here, we're looking at it. We're just starting off with these crests, trying to see these items that people are trying to get into and get going.
Yeah, so we see the Steel is actually going to be the offlaner, something we did miss in draft. It's going to be the Saras on Tutanchamin to be the support. That is definitely interesting. It's going to be into a Richter, so that's a very skill-based sort of matchup. Like you can queue before you can use your barricade before you get Whiplash in order to dodge all of the damage out. Also, like with the spear, you are pretty strong in those melee support into melee support matchups, but also it can go pretty wrong if the Richter plays it well. If they hit a few good hooks, if they snowball early game, it is also pretty unplayable for the Saras.
Able to get that out. He does have a little bit more advantage, especially like you were just talking about with that melee to melee, especially with that Spear of Near, able to get a lot of poke off and a little bit more distance than with the Richter cannon, kind of mitigating that range deficit you have with the ADC. Juju getting a little bit aggressive, going towards the steel, trying to poke away, especially with those swirling blades. Might be able to trade a little bit more into that steel versus that shield bash.
Yeah, but I'm not really expecting the Greystone to be able to dominate the lane too hard. I think Steel has a pretty decent matchup into the Greystone. Can just use his shield bash to dissuade the Greystone from walking forward and can just wait out his sort of AoE abilities. I think the mid lane also, I think Gideon has a bit of the edge over the Howitzer. Howitzer has a lot of range though, but he has a big hitbox. So I think it's still very skill based. I think it's also about like how those junglers want to path. We've seen before in some of these games, we had a lot of mid lane attention. Especially thinking of Import right now, like he likes to go mid lane. We're gonna have to wait and see whether one of those junglers wants to do the same.
If the aggression comes down correctly, it's going to be in favor of whoever gets those off, especially if they're successful. And we did talk a little bit about how the Greystone is not going to have necessarily a good matchup into that Steel, but Steel is also one of those heroes that kind of just doesn't really have a bad matchup. Kind of just depends on what type of phase he's in and what he needs to do accomplish with his team comps. So you both see both junglers in their red side kind of just clearing. But let's really talk about that duo lane. We do see that team Crisis kind of has the pressure right now and kind of just going into the Richter here.
Yeah, they do, and they all have full mana and full HP. Meanwhile, the Richter already less than half HP, but the mid lane gank is coming out. Gideon is getting low and low, has to blink out, is gonna drop to the Rampage. First blood.
And that is the pressure that we were talking about, where the jungler goes and who went mid lane, just like you said. And that is the first blood going off to confirm Crisis as they're looking to get this game started off hot. As you see him rotating over towards the offlane once a time, and another rock lands, and the chain CC is there. Can he leap away? And he does, but the Rampage follows and forces the blink. But a blink for a blink, and that is 2 kills within 3 minutes for confirmed Crisis.
Yeah, if I am the Steel, I'm giving a big, wet kiss on the cheeks of the Rampage, flashing into the tower to secure the lead on that side of the map. Also pushes the next wave up. We see it on the minimap right now to make sure that the wave can't be frozen on. It's a bit of a shuffle over to the dual lane. That's going to be a hook connecting. Saros is just able to walk out, though. I think he had the barricade up. So all in all, just decent played, like really well played actually by the Rampage. That not only made the mid laner really, really happy, but also his off laner.
And that is a jungle gap starting to be created. You see the howitzer, that range coming in handy, being able to poke out Exappy here. But going over here, I think the barricade was up, going for the gold buff there on the side of Zaris, even though he did get yanked. But those Murdoch traps, I want to highlight that, were just set up so perfectly, so they can't necessarily get too aggressive. They had a little narrow window to really run after Crisis there. Do you see? Chimera, though, going to be spotted on the ward, going to be able to take it out. It's going to be known to be there, but possibly able to re-gank if he's able to get up. But once again, we see the Rampage coming over, no blink on top of Juju, and he's not going to be able to run again, and he's just getting chased after, but the speed. But here comes the blink. Can they get it? No, they can't. My, so close for Juju. One little lucky escape.
Yeah, well, you can call it lucky or absolutely calculated right there. What is not calculated is the Rampage rock that just barely misses. Chimera, though, close by, is going to make sure that the big monster is going to leave his jungle. Definitely does not want to share his jungle minions with that guy, so he is just going to look at him very, very strictly, but is going to take his 5 camp afterwards. The Rampage just accepts defeat, has to go back, but I think the damage has already been done. The Steel is very happy in that offlane. You mentioned it before. Steel is not really there to really solo kill anyone. The Steel is there to be the big sponge that can, as I said, sponge a lot of pressure that is not really there to get those leads, but he is one that can facilitate those leads, that can make the mid game super easy for them to play. But Chimera looking over to the offlane again, that might be a gank.
Without the blink on top of Fed, just going to be able to use the shield bash, kind of stun him and let him understand that he's still Steel, is going to be okay. Juju getting aggressive, but Rampage once again over here, and Juju does not have a lot. If the rock is able to connect here, it's going to be bad, but with Chimera over here to answer that gank, he's going to be okay. Going to have to use his cleanse, but with that cleanse down, the CC is going to be able to lock on and no escape. Going to have to use the blink, as Bierchen is just going to apply this pressure throughout this entire game right now.
Yeah, and it's so questionable. Like, he cleansed nothing right there, and then he just ends up, like, Rampage is like, okay, I can't use my rock, he has cleansed, but then he just used it for nothing, and so it's like, okay, I guess we get your blink for free. Almost get the kill as well, but in mid lane, level 6 to level 5, that's a lot of damage onto the Gideon, has to teleport out, but is gonna be able to survive. That is all part of the... Part of like the early gank we saw towards the mid lane, like all of that lead kind of snowballs, right? So that's always the danger. Now we see Chimera also having to blink away, kind of low in terms of resources as well. Richter misses the Whiplash. Yeah, and we can see the Saras dealing a lot of pressure in the dual lane as well.
Right now, Crisis just has the overall pressure on the map. We do have Fangtooth up. 20 seconds until Mini Prime is up as well. And we're going to be seeing these neutral objectives starting to be pressured out, trying to be getting taken, trying to get these stacks applied, especially with that Fangtooth. And right now, with the way Crisis is playing, looking towards their favor instead. Do you see this trap set up once again to peel away from any kind of pressure towards that gold buff as they look to get the second one on their field? But going towards these neutral objectives, we did talk about how Crisis kind of just has the advantage right now. Do we think that's going to apply? Well, wait a second. We do see the Chimera here gonna have to go over towards that green buff, still able to escape. But go back to these neutral objectives. Do you think they're going to be going for a trade here, or do you think just Crisis is just going to be able to take both of these with how much pressure they have?
So right now we see the Chimera on the other side of the map. So Fangtooth is definitely one of those objectives that could be taken by Crisis, but it all depends on where the Rampage paths. If he wants to play for his mid lane again, or if he actually wants to start it. It does look like the dual lane of Wompcats is a bit overextended. Rampage is looking towards something, is going to get an invade. Blue buff is going to spawn in a second, so he's probably going to take that. Maybe look towards the dual lane next. Meanwhile, Chimera is kind of on vision this entire time.
Might be able to hit level 6 here coming out of the Rampage. That's going to be huge, especially with how pushed up Wompcats are right now in that dual lane. And if he's able to get anything off, and there's that level 6 that we're looking for, and here comes a flank. Looking for that rock. Possibly able to catch somebody out. Not a lot. And it goes, lands on TB. Goes on in. Coliseum's not available though, but Richter taking all that pressure. The double blink is forced out. And that's the pressure they might be able to use to go towards this Fangtooth, as Chimera is on his way as well to hunt in, to possibly trying to get a counter gank. Does not have level 6. They're kind of just poking out here. Maybe nothing's going to come out of it, but the snipe hits, and it's not close enough. It looks like the white flag is waved, and just going to back out and try to look for something else.
Yeah, they definitely are. Gideon getting low in mid lane is not gonna get hit by the R2000 rocket, but it's import, not import, it's Rampage using that DM of early, but he does not have it up right now. Chimera getting caught, does not have his blink up from the earlier fight, is gonna go down. Saras is getting lower, Murdoch as well, but he's just gonna get walked out by the Rampage. They're gonna secure the 3 camp off the back of it. It's just a bit of a disaster in the jungle right now.
Rampage showing their absolute dominance. We were talking about early game and what he kind of just brings to the team. As we do see that Devilingi getting that pressure, since they got that picked, able to pick up that Chimera, fighting for his 3 camp. Might possibly be able to turn that into enough pressure to go towards this Fangtooth, but TheCrazyLegend able to push out the Gideon there. And that's this pressure just being applied throughout the entire map for Crisis. They're able to get pressure in all 3 lanes. And right now they're just kind of just in control. Can they keep this? Or what does Wompcats need to do to really turn this around?
Yeah, I mean, we gotta look at those fights, right? Like, if they don't get a few kills, a few shutdowns, if possible, on the Rampage, then it does look a bit hard. But now we see a rock connecting on the Richter. Dual lane does not have any sums up, but it is just gonna be walked away. Greystone also getting pushed in. It looks a bit rough. I think we have to play a bit around the mid lane if possible. Gideon, even though he is quite a bit behind, still probably has the highest damage profile in the team. So if they can catch the Howie, get a good CC lock with the Kal from the Chimera, they can definitely play around it. But they have time to scale, right? Like, their comp is not necessarily a good late game comp, but the enemies are not pushing their lead. They're not getting those objectives. They're just kind of AFK farming. As we see Greystone blinking away, good shield slam by the steal, but nothing's going to come out of it.
Looking for Griff. Chimera coming over. We know the shield slam is down low, man, and the black hole comes out on top of Fed, and he's not going to have much here. Maybe there's that slow coming from Stoneforge. Slow as the blink comes up in time. Just a second away with the Murdoch snipe missing. So they're just going to have to call that one and take it away. And that is a good gank coming out of Wompcats. But look at this mid lane pressure that is coming out of it. And they weren't able to get the kill. So it's kind of voided here.
Yeah, they're not getting the kill, and TheCrazyLegend gets an entire tower and denies a lot of CS for Gideon. So definitely not something you want to see, but going back to the point from earlier, is Rampage still just farming his jungle. He got a big lead in the early game, but so far he's not been able to transition it really. Like, they're a good counter gank, but in the end it's still a bit of more time wasted. His howitzer is getting strong, but I really want him to contest those neutral objectives sooner rather than later.
We do need to see that come out of him to kind of just get that symbol like you're talking about. But the Coliseum comes out straight on time floor. The blink is down, and the make it rain, and that's a double kill coming towards Crisis as they stack on top of this lead. And my, oh my, this is getting out of hand.
This is getting out of hand. That's 2 stacks for the support as well. That's certainly not what you want to have. 8 more AD for the Saras. And also 2 more kills, I think, for the Howitzer. That has been such a problem for the Gideon in the mid lane. Now even more of a menace. We see trading in the off lane as well, but I think Greystone is just kind of not really able to do much. We see him build Overlord instead of Basilisk, so he doesn't have a lot of damage against the full tank steel that is probably just going Fire Blossom. But now finally we see Saras support starting up the Fangtooth. Chimera though is in the vicinity.
If it's low enough, Chimera might get the advantage, but Rampage is here to save the day, and this looks like a 50-50 smite battle that's going to happen if this Chimera chooses to just jump on here. But it goes over to Crisis, and now they turn their attention towards Griff as he's forced to blink out early, but without the blink on top of this Richter, he is dead to rights here, and that is it. But the black hole comes out on top, and Tutanchamin has to go, and there's a 1-for-1. But back in the back line, they're kind of just having this huge fight, and they probably put a kill on board, but Griff is low, and there it is. The big Rampage cleans that up, and it's going to be a 3-for-1 as Crisis get the Fangtooth and 3 kills to their name.
get a bunch of carries, get the FangBooth as well, finally at 13 minutes. That's the first objective of the game. But yeah, I mean, really well played by them. It was a bit unfortunate. The Chimera blinked early, so the Rock connects with the Richter instead. That doesn't have blink. Chimera, if he tanked that one and just cleansed it and blinked after, it would have been fine. Greystone going really low in the offlane in the meanwhile. Doesn't want to drop the wave though. Gotta wait and see whether Steel has blink up, whether he can do something about it. It doesn't really look like it.
Did he use that blink in that last team fight? So we're obviously going to see him squirrely, but he goes on in. Oh my word, the confidence. And he doesn't need a blink when you have a shield slam. That is a kill. Solo Bolo going on over to Fed.
Yeah, I think Greystone just wanted to show like his mom maybe something, was not at the computer right there, so he was not able to react to that somehow. So yeah, I mean, that's just a solo kill by the Steel. Well played by him, I suppose. Maybe not as well played by the Greystone though, but that is going to be the 9th kill for Confirmed Crisis. Also the FangBooth in their pocket. It is looking pretty dire.
With such a substantial lead, we talked about them reevaluating on the side of Team Wompcats these team fights to kind of get themselves back into this game, but it has not been there. Do see Crisis looking over to this next objective. Unfortunate, as I do think Rampage was trying to just leave that for the Steel, but with that bleed coming out of the Smite's passive, just going to be able to just kind of collect that. But nonetheless, they pick up the mini prime overall team gold. And then again, they need to do something here for Wompcats.
They definitely do. It's looking a bit dire. Usually you can decide what lane you want to play for, the lane that is not losing, but if all 3 of the lanes are losing, plus your Chimera is getting run down by the Rampage, that is usually a bad sign. As we see another gank towards the duo lane, Howitzer is right there. Health bars are dropping a bit, Colosseum going down as well, Crusher is getting lower on the Richter, is going to be able to blink out. Flulouch does not blink and gets absolutely demolished by TheCrazyLegend.
Legend indeed, as you can clean that up. Richter, you cannot stay here, my friend. There's 3 enemies in that lane, but over on in the off lane, we have another fight going on. Griff trying to survive, but it's not enough, especially with that Ore Prime buff. But Juju has the health bar, has the mana, is going to be able to fight. But on the opposite side, they were pick up Richter finally, and Juju goes in, but he dies to the bleed and does not use the Stoneforge Soul. And man, right now, this is a crisis that cannot be solved.
Yeah, it has been confirmed for sure. They are looking super strong right now. 13-1 on their scoreboard, also with a CS lead that is quite astonishing. 160 CS lead in the first 15 minutes. I don't think I've seen that too often. This is looking like a bit of a stomp so far. So I'm thinking for the side of Wompcats, what can they do? And I'm still thinking like the Gideon at least finished his first item, right? Like baby steps. Okay? So maybe get the shutdown on Howitzer, maybe transition that into a neutral objective. But you gotta actively start looking for something, because if you keep playing the entire map reactively, I don't think it's gonna get better.
I don't think it's going to get better either, as we now see that pressure going inside the enemy's jungle. Wompcats now cannot just freely farm. This is the 2nd time we've seen Rampage over on inside the blue side, and then now we're starting to see that Howitzer kind of just putting pressure on that red side jungle as well. And with such a huge lead, there's really not much stopping them from doing what they want. As we do see Howitzer coming over for another gank as they're trying to do gold buff. Do keep in mind, Wompcats do not have that tower there. Crusher trying to be aggressive, trying to peel away, but just going to get blown up absolutely all the way. But here comes the fight, and that is going to be 1 down on the side of Wompcats. And Griff looking dire. Call the Cole comes out, but a huge trap is placed. Devil brings up another one. That is 3 people down, and this is a FangBooth that's coming up, looking for the side of Crisis again.
Yeah, this is a Soulbreaker, just absolutely getting mid-diffed right now, right there. Like, how is it just being in that lane 24/7? Gideon, just like after that early gank by the Rampage, hasn't been able to recover his lane too well. And as you mentioned, now it's 4 people around, actually 5 people around that FangBooth. That's going to be an easy secure for the side of Confirmed Crisis. 16 kills in their pockets. Gonna look for that, and then also 2 minutes later, Big Prime is gonna spawn. And with a big lead like this, I'm almost expecting them to start that up early.
Just look at that tap screen. They're on the side of Crisis. They've already have 2 full items on pretty much everybody working on their third. Meanwhile, on the side of Wompcats, barely getting into their second item, and that is the advantage we're definitely seeing, not just throughout the goal, but throughout the items and throughout these fights. And man, they are looking like they are definitely going to get that 20-minute or prime if this keeps up. But with those shutdowns available, if Wompcats could find them, it's going to be huge for them to be able to get themselves a little bit closer to getting themselves back into this game.
I definitely want to see them play actively a bit more. I think most of these fights is just triggered by how it's running from the mid lane over to the dual side or from Rampage, going aggressive. Instead, like I really want to see the Gideon link up with the Chimera, go for a play like that. Also, Richter should probably go towards mid lane as well. Make sure that at least his team can play because the TB is kind of out of the game anyways. So might as well just let the TB farm on distance. He has his nades. He is going to be fine. Instead, the Richter should provide the lockdown. His team should provide the damage, but I'm looking towards Gideon again.
Man, he got one R2000 and has to use that torn space, but he's running into danger once again. And here comes the reinforcement. He's going to try and portal over, but the blink fails and miss. He still has the torn space, but it's not in time, and he goes down. Man, that was a valiant effort, but just not there. Maybe misclicked a little bit, just low on the aim there. Did you see that pressure coming out in the mid lane forward to Crisis as they look to push towards this T2 tower?
Yeah, big shout out to Cynic there as well, obviously. Great wars, keep it up. But yeah, a bit unfortunate just not having the range to actually get out there, but even if he did, there was already a member waiting on the other side. So kind of in a bad spot there, kind of like a sardine in the bottle, as we see TV getting low in the mid lane, just getting absolutely deleted. They're just not respecting them at all. They're just diving them under tier 2s. They're getting 2 tier 2s at the same time. They just don't care.
I mean, with this lead, I wouldn't care at all. And now they're looking to get that second T2 we were talking about. But not only that, they're coming in onto this Richter, and Richter's staying too long, and it's going to go down here. And that's another kill in the pockets of Crisis as they look for another one. And right now, they look like they're playing TDM. And it's not necessarily as they're playing with macro here. They're just kind of just going full send. The black hole comes out, but the Coliseum is there to get out. How use that epoch and Bass to blink back out, but how he's gonna have to be close, and then goes. And Griff finally picks up a kill, and that's a huge shutdown as he focuses attention towards Thesaurus. And with that healing on stack, he might be able to get one, but not enough. And there it is. TB by himself, though. That's not where you want to be, and that's 4 kills. Going towards Crisis, but able to get a shutdown though, and that's good. And that's what we wanted to see.
Yeah, it's pretty much the first time I've seen the Gideon actually making a play proactively, and it does work out. It ended up being pretty meh in terms of like overall sort of gold, but at least they got a 1 shutdown. The howitzer kind of misplayed there, went into his ultimate and then pressed stasis afterwards. So what ended up happening is he cancelled his own ultimate, and he was just kind of dead from that point onwards. Greystone does have the 3 lives. Is not gonna matter because they are just gonna make sure to keep him alive. Has to pop the ultimate, but he is just gonna be transferred over to the base with the big fast express by the Rampage.
You hate to see it. You wouldn't want to be it. And that is another kill going over towards Team Crisis as they keep stacking on top of this lead. And right now, the Wompcats have dug such a deep grave. It's going to be hard to get out of. We've talked about it. They need to reevaluate these team fights. They did a little bit of that with that fight next to the inhib, but with the inhib doing most of the damage, can you really see if they actually made that change? And with that Orb Prime being up, we see Team Crisis heading on over, and Team Wompcats still lost in array of not knowing exactly what to do here. And I don't think they can contest, as we do see Griff, though, poking his head through. Not much he can do here, just being peeled away. Gonna have to secure that Orb Prime, though, on Team Crisis, and he's gonna be on the run. They pop that Leaf Song, and they're looking to go towards. They're hunting right now, and Griff getting caught out with a Coliseum stack. And there it is, as they push towards this tier 2 tower in the left lane.
Yeah, but does it really matter when they lose the tier 1 on the other side of the map? Spoiler, yes it does, because it looks pretty dire. They're pushing down the tier 2, looking to maybe get more as well. FangTooth is going to spawn up soon as well. That's the 3rd FangTooth of the game. That would be a big win condition as well. But are they confident enough? Are they patient enough, actually, because they want to fight?
I mean, they're going to do their best. I mean, they don't necessarily need to be patient here, as you do see them picking up another kill in that Gideon getting caught out with a huge shield slam. Shield wall goes up, gonna stop a hook from going in, and there it goes and go back on in, and they just do not care right now, inhib or not. They're just gonna run you down as Crisis looks towards his inhib, and with 3 members down, a lot of their kind of wave clear out of the way, this is going to be looking like it's game for Wompcats, and Crisis just putting back on that pressure. They're looking towards mid inhib here, and they still have about 10 seconds left. There's not much that they can do on the side of Wompcats. As the Griff goes in and 1v5 here, not a good look as it gets instantly erased from the map, erased from the game files. And this is it. The core's starting to take damage. 2 more waves on in. The black hole comes out on top, though, trying to change this game, trying to clear the wave as Fed is looking low, and it might not be enough. And they're actually able to secure this defend as they're trying to turn this around and pick up a kill on Tutan, but Devil gets another kill, unable to be shut down yet. Has to blink out. Juju on the chase, trying to find something. Stone Forward Soul gets in, but gets hit in the face with a rock. And that's not what you want as Devil's still alive, and he's here to play. Looking towards the core now, though. Can they make another defense? I don't think so with 3 inhibs down. Wave did just spawn, so it just buys them a little bit more time for the wave clear to get back up. But are they going to look towards the finish? As these 3 waves crashes, Crisis in there. Not much to do, making a rain coming down on top. Richter getting caught out with another rock. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's confirmed Crisis able to pick up the game, get themselves off in a better footing.